November 2nd, 2016. This is Home Before Dark, episode 90. We're getting there, man. 10 away from 100. We need to do some sort of countdown show and just keep things going. Anyway, I'm Tim, and as always, I'm joined by my lovely co-host, Mr. Kevin Bradley. We're broadcasting a little early. It's that time, though, isn't it?
Yeah. It's things have gotten crazy lately with my schedule and stuff. Just trying to keep a little bit more of a routine and get back into the gym regularly. And I was up in Canton today, so it's just kind of like, where can I squeeze it in? And figure earlier is better than later. So that I have
is that how it is now? Yeah, you got to squeeze me in. You got to squeeze us in.
Yeah, it's tough, man. It's like you got 5 hours whenever you get home, and got to take out an hour for dinner, an hour for this thing and that thing and everything else. I got a challenge mode tonight in Destiny, and so it's tough to get everything in there. So
yeah,
it's good to be on.
Yeah, so yesterday they did, speaking of which, they dropped challenge mode. I don't think they talked about anything other than the Vosic challenge yet?
No, not yet.
Okay, so have you looked into it?
Yeah, it's pretty basic.
Yeah, it seems pretty straightforward from what I was looking at too. Somebody was explaining it in all of like 2 minutes. It doesn't seem like that much of a challenge. It almost seems like it's like Oryx was with the challenge mode in King's Fall, to where it might be an easier strategy to do? No, you don't think so?
Wait, what do you think you're supposed to do?
Wait, you're talking about? Well, I guess, I mean, it does cut down the amount of waves, or the waves of DPS that you can do, right? I mean, because it does cut it down to two waves of getting to the rooms, but
I don't think you know what you're supposed to do.
Talking about taking the DPS bombs, going into each room.
Yeah, you don't know. Everybody still goes into one room. You just use one of the DPS bombs to close the door.
Oh, that's weird, because the video
that less damage that you do to him.
The video that I was watching was showing that you had to do it in both rooms at the same time.
Not that I know of. Maybe that's the case, but my thought was that you just had to use the bomb to activate the door. I don't think you.
I
could be wrong.
Anyway,
into that.
Yeah,
but even still, if that's the case, that's not an easier strategy to go to two.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
Because that's way less. You have to have a lot more damage on him, and those bombs do a ton of damage. So.
Yeah, I guess you're right. So there's that. What do you think the other challenges might be?
I don't know. I'm kind of disappointed that this one is so simple. I was hoping it would be a little bit more in depth. So I don't know. I've kind of had what's the word I'm looking for? Like, I've not had a great relationship with Destiny lately. Like, Festival Lost left a bad taste in my mouth. Then having stepped back from playing so much, just like I said, for the sake of my schedule and stuff like that lately. I'm not, I mean, there's just that carrot isn't really there right now. And knowing that Destiny 2 isn't going to be until late next year, I'm like, well, what's the point in even getting to a light level now for something that's not going to be out until the end of next year? I don't see the point. So.
Yeah, until we get to the April update of next year, and then they end up raising the light level a little bit. And again, that carrot wasn't that enticing for me to begin with back in April. So I really didn't delve too much into that update to where.
It was in that it breathed new life back into Prison of Elders. So that was fun. That was fun.
Yeah, I don't know what they would do in that regard with. I mean, what would they do? Just put challenge mode on the other raids?
I think people have been clamoring for that for a long time. It's been 2 years since Vault of Glass has been relevant, so I think it's due up for something. I mean, how hard is it to come up with a couple of modifiers for something that's already existing in game? Like, you can only use the relic once. Okay, that's pretty simple for an Atheon battle. That makes everybody have to use the relic. Like, 3 people get teleported. You can only use it once. At this light level, you can kill Atheon in 2 or 3 passes anyway. So, I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of stuff that can be done to make that work, and it just seems silly.
Yeah. So in sticking with video games and you falling out of love with Destiny, I know that you've stepped away a good bit from playing stuff in general, but Gears of War, how's the experience been so far?
Oh, it was great, man. I got up to Act 3, I think. I'm loving playing it on Insane mode. It's insanely frustrating, but insanely um, satisfying once you clear a particular chapter. So the story's been great so far. Like I said, I'm hoping to get back into that too at some point. So, and then Titanfall 2 just came out this week. So.
Yeah, you're sounding a little bit like you're underwater, and I'm not sure what's going on. It's almost like your connection's getting a little choppy.
I don't know.
All right. Well, anyway, so that's obviously something that I need to get into. That's something that I definitely have not, that I haven't really given enough attention to, that I haven't, I guess, paid enough respect to. But I know one thing that you got me hooked on, that you've been hooked on as well. It's kind of a new hidden gem on Netflix show called MeatEater.
I don't even know where you are. Hello?
You there, Kevin?
Yeah, you just completely cut out and got super broken up on me. I'm here.
Yeah, it's still giving me issues too with your sound. I'm not sure what's going on.
I don't know.
Oh, there it goes. It looks like it's cleared up. Anyway, yeah. So hidden gem that you got me hooked on Netflix, that you're also hooked on, show called MeatEater.
Yeah. Takes me back to a life once lived in some respects, not to the intensity that he does it by any means, but I mean, there's something to be said for hunting and fishing and having that skill set, but to the point that he does it is just incredibly fascinating to me, seeing somebody that knows how to hunt and apply those skills to every type of animal and environment, and how to cook and clean and have specific episodes revolving around each one of those elements is really, really fascinating to me. So I've been watching a ton of that.
Yeah, me as well. I mean, the past couple days, like I said, you got me hooked on it. It is fascinating. It is a lifestyle not near anything that I've ever lived in my life. So it's like a completely new world, and it opens your eyes to different things. And it's interesting because there's this whole like ethical dilemma when it comes into hunting, at least with me, and even with him. And I'm starting to notice in some of these episodes, especially the one that I'm on, or the series of episodes that I'm on, whenever he's down in the rainforest. But for me, I think it's awesome. Like, I'm not a huge fan of trophy hunting. I mean, I guess to each his own, and population control and all that stuff, whatever, with deer, because they do overpopulate certain areas and it's not necessarily a huge deal. But I still struggle. Like, that's like watching the first episode that's on Netflix, watching him hunting in, I want to say he was in Alaska. They were hunting moose up there. They were in Canada. I can't remember. Anyway, but watching them actually take that moose down and watching it die is still, for me, it's starting to get a little desensitizing, I guess, watching these. But the great thing is, like you said, it's a subsistence thing, right? So he's completely living off of and completely honoring, even to the point where he's like taking out the coal fat inside of a deer and like wrapping meatballs in it and shit like that. It's so cool. And I think the best word that I've come to describe it as, at least for me, is emasculating, because those are things like you kind of daydream. Like, for me, being a modern, like, whatever you want to call, city kid, I'm a soft guy, right? I work a desk job. I play sports, but I don't do a whole lot of hard labor outside of yard work and that kind of thing. And
even then, you still have people come do it.
Hey, that's not me. That's an agreement. That's an agreement with my landlord. So you could take that up with him. I was doing the yard whenever I first got here. So anyway, so it's interesting because it's start to think about, especially not in kind of a grander scale, as like climate change and all that stuff. And like, what if something went down? Would you have the ability? Would you have the wherewithal, the skills to go through and to do this, to be able to do this on your own, and to be able to live off of that. And me, no, I absolutely would not be able to do that at this point. But it also opens my mind to maybe it's a lifestyle I wouldn't mind partaking in eventually, and something that could be kind of a cool. It's not a hobby, I guess. It's a lifestyle.
Yeah,
and it's
so that was
interesting.
So for me, something I don't think many people aside from you know about me was that I grew up. And Amber know that I grew up hunting and fishing and stuff like that. And what this show has done for me is like, I kind of miss some of that. Like I've killed deer before and cleaned them and butchered them and cooked them and love venison and have fished before and like grew up doing that stuff. I mean, certainly not to the extent that he does it. And to your point about like, if it was an apocalyptic scenario, I don't think I could hunt much outside of like small game potentially. I mean, a lot of the hunting I did was in stands and blinds and stuff, which he's much more like
Roaming.
A stalk hunter, which takes an incredible amount of skill of knowing your surroundings and venturing out into an unknown place. And like, it's not just finding something, but just the way that he always knows whenever he's upwind or downwind from the animal, and tracking their scent and vice versa, and all these different things. And I don't think I would be to that point, but it's definitely something. Every year whenever I had to go to the Ducks Unlimited banquet, I'm always like, man, I need to go do a hunt. Like I just but also to your point, it's also a lifestyle. You can't go out and spend, guns, bow and arrow, whatever weaponry you want to use to hunt. That's not cheap. Not to mention all the other things that you just have to have in your arsenal, like the clothes and time and wherewithal and experience and everything else to go do that. You're absolutely right. It's a lifestyle. And I don't think that's what I'll take my clay pigeon shoot once a year, which I go do. And I'll take my Ducks Unlimited banquet, and maybe I'll go fishing every once in a blue moon down whenever we go home to see Amber's dad. But other than that, I think I'm going to stick away from it unless some random thing comes up. So,
yeah. And it's going to become increasingly expensive. Because I have a coworker who's very big into guns and very big into ammunition and going and shooting and being proficient in that kind of thing and going and hunting. He was talking about essentially the price of ammo is going to double in the next 6 months.
See, that's the thing that always gets me is like, I feel like every time I talk to a gun enthusiast, that's always their response. And it seems like that's the response every time I talk to them. And
there's like an ammo shortage in a lot of places right now.
And I don't know if it's an actual shortage or if it's just helter-skelter and everyone's buying up. They're like, oh my God, it's an election year. I mean, let's be honest. Most of those people are Republican. And they're like, oh, it's Hillary's going to win. She's going to take away our guns. We all got to go stock up on ammo. And it's just basic economics. It's like whenever you're in a rural town and you got 3 ammo shops and 95% of the population hunts, and 95% and 100% of that population is under the impression that all their ammo and guns are going to be taken away, and they're buying everything. What do you think is going to happen?
Yeah, I know. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, like Walmart has a limit on, you could buy 1 box of ammo right now.
Right.
It's kind of crazy. No, the show's fascinating. Like I was saying, the episode that I'm on right now, or the series of episodes, he's down in Bolivia and they're hunting with these indigenous people. I take it you've been through that. And so it's crazy, because once I saw that monkey show up, I was like, God, it made me uneasy, and immediately made him uneasy too.
Yeah.
And it's okay. Maybe I'm not so sensitive to this thing. Maybe.
Yeah.
There are certain limits, because primates are so close to humanity. It's
yeah, but I mean, that's the big thing that I love about that show is he approaches it from such a passionate and realistic viewpoint and an experienced viewpoint that he's thrust into these scenarios where he's hunting with people that hunt to live, that are not hunting because it's a commodity or they have the option to, but because they have to. And even though all the meat that he eats, he hunts himself, that's still very much an option being in a first world country. But being down in Bolivia and stuff like that, like I said, that's their source of meat, is because they have to hunt. Like, there is no factory farming scenario. So
that's a great thing he said, right? I have the luxury of going out and hunting deer, or I know what I'm going to go and hunt.
Right,
he said these people go out to hunt food.
Right. And, and he even says, who am I to judge that or put my perspective on that rather than just watch, observe, and partake. But the other thing is, he even tackles the concept of trophy hunting and stuff like that. It's just, I've never been so wrapped up in a show. I think that's really what's so great about it, is that even though I'm not a big hunter, regardless of my background, and why I suggested it to you to see what what you would take away from it, is because I just find it fascinating whenever somebody is passionate about something and they can talk about or walk you through something, whatever it may be, that they're genuinely passionate and knowledgeable about. I just enjoy that kind of media, I guess.
No, I agree with you, and it's very unpretentious, unlike a show that's kind of striving for the same thing, like Chef's Table on Netflix.
Yeah, it's not Duck Dynasty or something like that. Like, this is just, and it's not some good old boy redneck that's just out there hunting in his deer stand every week in, week out, episode in, episode out. Like, he's taking new people out. He's got, women that he works with that he takes out on their first hunt, and he has episodes that are completely dedicated to just cooking wild game and stuff like that. I can't say enough good things about it. If you're looking for some new show that's low resource intensive, you don't need to really know much of a plot, pick it up, put it down type of show, I can't recommend it enough. So
I have to disagree with you on that. We talked about that yesterday. I need the first 4 seasons of backstory.
Oh,
that's the thing, though. It's, if you get your fill watching season 5 and 6, which are on Netflix, you have to go and purchase from his website the first 4 seasons. I think they're like $2.99 an episode, something like that.
Yeah.
So the only other thing I could say about it is it really makes me hate the fact that I have gout, because I absolutely love venison, and I would love to try moose and elk and all that stuff and all that red meat and any kind of game. I would absolutely love to try, and it would just be something that I would have to do once every couple months. And it's,
speaking of which, I cracked into that elk and buffalo jerky that I got out in Utah this
how
week.
is that?
It was really, really good. It's drastically different. So we did a blind taste test, me and George at the office. We took both the packs, turned them upside down so we couldn't see the label, and just shuffled them up so that we weren't prejudiced over what meat was better. What I really should have done, what I think threw me off, was that I got different flavors for both of them. I should have gotten the same flavor for both so that it's truly
that's a biased study. You don't have a control.
Right. So that said, I enjoyed the buffalo a little bit more. It seemed to have a little bit more tooth to it. Like, the elk just seemed much more, it just very much seemed like a game animal. It was a little bit drier and just didn't have much of a protein musculature tooth to it, I guess I could say. Flavor, like I said, I think my opinion on that is indifferent, just because they were different flavors. Like, one was like black pepper and the other one was like spicy something or other. So I can't remember what, but they were both fucking fantastic. I wish I'd gotten more. So
is that your first time eating buffalo?
No, I've had buffalo burgers and stuff like that, but first time I'd had buffalo jerky, which has kind of become the new bacon in a lot of ways. I don't think it's as prominent as we see bacon, but I definitely see it a lot more now than I did 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah, for sure. And I think Ted Turner's probably to blame for that, because of Ted's Montana Grill kind of popularized that a decent amount, at least on a bigger scale. And yeah, the only time I've had buffalo is there, and then also whenever I was out in Denver, had like a corned beef hash type deal, but with buffalo. It's a little dry compared to.
Yeah, you got to get it like medium rare. You can't get it well done. If you're going to get it well done, it's going to be way too dry, which that was the one other time, like it's such a commercialized version of it, but I had it one time at Yeah Burger here in Atlanta, and even though I asked for it medium, it came more on the well done side, and I was like, this is not great like I thought it would be. And then another time I went to a really good burger place and got it, like whenever I asked for a medium, it really came out medium, and it was fantastic.
Yeah, that's the other thing with the game, right? It's so lean because these animals have to survive and walk and run everywhere. They're not sitting.
Well, and then it's just like, whenever you're getting a burger, how are they making those burger patties? What kind of fat are they cutting into it? What's their ratio? Like, that's the other thing. Back to MeatEater, like him making his own game burgers and showing you the ratio of pork fat to lean meat and all this other stuff that's important for making a ground burger. So
yeah, for sure, because he's essentially, once he gets done butchering, his game meat is essentially 100% lean. So he's talking about what, it's 90-10,
something like that. Yeah,
which is that's kind of dry to me. That seems like it would be dry to me, because typical suggested ratio from any chef is going to be 80-20 is probably going to be your best, but maybe that's just because of the meat that they're used to dealing with versus game meat. I don't know.
Well, I think the other thing is, and you know that as somebody that enjoyed or has had venison before, is that game meat in general has so much more of a flavor profile than your typical 80-20 ground beef that you're going to get at the supermarket. That's just been, it's comparing like craft beer to Bud Light, it really is, because commercial meat industry has just gotten to that point to where it's just so processed and changed. And I'm not one of these people that is going to say, don't buy processed foods or don't buy, meat from your supermarket. I could care less, but that's just the truth of the matter, is once you get to that level of processing and production, that you lose some of that quality, not just from the product standpoint, but just the meat in general, how the meat's raised and how the animal's raised and all that, versus an animal that's been out in the wild and all that. So
yeah, that's true. And whenever you think about the way that he's incorporating fat, it's from a different animal. So I guess if he gets to the point where he's putting 20% pork fat in there, you run the risk of that flavor being overshadowed. Because pork is a very powerful flavor, especially a pork fat and bacon and any kind of pork. It has a very prominent taste to it. So yeah. So I guess we've talked about hunting and meat eating for a good 20 minutes. So, but sticking with Netflix hidden gems, I guess, I don't know if you have any, but one that I ran across the other night, I was just looking for something, again, low impact stuff to watch while I was laying in bed trying to go to sleep. Sometimes it helps to have the TV on, but then I ended up getting to the point where I was laughing out loud at something by myself in my bedroom. And it was a movie that came up on there called Someone Mary Barry. Have you seen that or seen the?
I haven't.
So I typically don't go searching movies on Netflix, because movies, that's not really the bread and butter of what it is. But
well, it's also weird because I have the same thing happen where I don't go looking for movies because I'm like, oh, I don't want to dedicate 90 minutes to a movie, and yet I'll turn around and watch 4 episodes of whatever I end up watching back to back, which ends up being the same amount of time. But that's the way my mind works.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm just trolling through there trying to find something, and I noticed the cast just from like the poster image. I was like, I don't care like what reviews this got. I want to watch this movie because it has. Did you ever watch? What is the name of that movie? Tucker and Dale vs. Evil.
Yeah.
Okay, so Tyler Labine, the big guy from that, Damon Wayans Jr., Hayes MacArthur, Thomas Middleditch, and then a couple other people are in this movie, and I was like, this has to be worth a shot. And it ended up being really stupid and crude humor, but something kind of along the lines of Mike and Dave. So that kind of crude humor. But anyway, it's all about their friend who has no filter, and like they grew up with, and they're friends with him because they've always been friends with him, and he ruined shit and all that kind of stuff. And they're like trying to marry him off so they don't have to deal with him ever again. But just the people that are involved in it, I freaking love Tyler Labine and Damon Wayans Jr. Especially Thomas Middleditch is hilarious. And I think he is Richard Hendricks. I think he is like what Aaron Paul is to Jesse Pinkman. I think that is just him. And I think that as long as there is that character to play, he'll be good. There's just not that many meth dealers in shows, so you don't really see Jesse Pinkman or Aaron Paul in a whole lot of stuff.
Right. Except BoJack Horseman, which you don't see his face.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you do hear him a good bit on the Mazda commercials.
Yeah, exactly.
He sounds so much like Jeremy Piven to me. I swore that was Jeremy Piven for the longest time. But anyway, that movie's worth a shot. If you have an hour and a half that you put something on and you're doing something else or something like that. I don't know. Do you have any other like hidden gems on Netflix that you've seen recently?
MeatEater has been my biggest one, man. I really just kind of stumbled across that. And it's not that it was I'll be honest, it wasn't a complete blind find. Like most of the things I find myself stumbling into, it's by other podcasts or whatever. A big podcast I listen to, no surprises, Joe Rogan's podcast, who has had Steve Rinella on several times and had actually talked about being on MeatEater, and then some of those episodes are actually on the ones that made it on Netflix, which is kind of funny to see him and Brian Callen. Tell me whenever you get to the turkey episode. I'll put it that way. That episode, the first 15 minutes of that episode had me crying. I was laughing so hard.
All right. I'll have to do that because I watched the black-tailed deer one with them in Alaska.
And they're just fucking miserable.
Yeah, the entire time. Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty great. So moving on from that, I guess, there was some big Star Wars news, I guess, that came out of a quote from JJ Abrams today.
Did not hear about that.
I don't know if you want to hear it.
Probably not. Here,
okay.
You can just say it. I'll take my mic away, and then we can talk about it in some capacity. That might be a fun game for you to dodge it without telling me what it is.
No, it's not something like that.
Is it about episode 8?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Well, it's actually about 7. It's about episode 7.
Oh, well, if it's about episode 7, then tell me.
It's like more backstory. He just said that Kylo and Rey have never met each other before episode 7.
That's not bad. I don't mind knowing that. That's actually kind of interesting to know. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so too, because there are so many different theories about how she escaped the Jedi Academy whenever he slaughtered and all this stuff.
Right.
And it makes you wonder how he knew about her and just how powerful he is to know about her.
Yeah.
Having never met her. And
yeah.
I thought that was kind of fascinating. So it's that tidbit. And then there's also that we have not seen Rey's parents, or they weren't in episode 7. So those are the two big things I think that have come out of JJ Abrams' mouth since episode 7 happened.
See, so I'm wondering I still wonder if that's a way to dodge the Obi-Wan stuff. Like, because we didn't see Obi-Wan, but you heard him. He wasn't in it, but he was there. That could be a very easy skirt around. But maybe, I think in a lot of ways, that's almost perfect. But if both of those things hold completely true, that there's no fuckery going on, that they're not going to say, oh, well, Obi-Wan wasn't technically in the movie. She's not a Kenobi. And there's no relation between Kylo and her, that I think that's what, even though I love The Force Awakens, and I think a lot of people, even though they're hardcore Star Wars fans and they were disappointed by the fact that it was A New Hope reincarnate, like all of those things, I think The Force Awakens was what it had to be to reestablish some excitement and momentum in the franchise. And I fucking loved that movie. And I know that it got a lot of flack for the whole New Hope parallels and all that. But that said, now that the bar is set, what better way to really, really push the franchise forward than by saying, okay, now we can really do something completely new. Like, we're not going to follow the format of one of the original movies. We're not going to weave in anybody else from the original trilogy in some sort of direct bloodline sense. We're not going to do some weird twist on something that you've already seen, but something completely new and original. That would be really fun to see, I think.
So with that said, if Kylo was in the Jedi Academy with Luke, does Luke know who Rey is? Has Luke ever met Rey?
Yeah, I don't know.
That opens up the complete possibility that she is a completely organic, just blank slate character, and that to me is so exciting.
Exactly. And so that's what I mean.
Just adding to what you were saying, I think that's perfect. I want that to happen, because if you think about it, in the time where Luke and Han and Leia, I'm guessing, were still close. So Han and Leia have Kylo, and Kylo's going through the Jedi Academy. He's older than Rey. So at that point, if Kylo Ren doesn't know who Rey is, there's no doubt to me in that regard that Luke had never met her and he didn't train her.
No, exactly. And I think that's really exciting to see too, because it's like, Rey even said something in the movie about like Luke Skywalker, the legendary Jedi, and all that. So like, she's meeting him for the first time. He's this thing of legend. He's meeting her for the first time. Like, they're building this very organic Yoda Luke relationship, but this time we already know Luke, versus whenever Yoda first was established in the comic, or not the comics, in the movies, like nobody knew who Yoda was, So now it's like, we know who this big Jedi master is going into this, but their relationship is still very much the same as the Luke Yoda relationship. If you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
They don't know each other. They have no preconceived notion of each other. They know nothing of each other's history. So that training and all of that isn't clouded by any of that,
Yeah, even so with Yoda knew what Obi-Wan had told him about Luke, right? So you're right. It's a completely blank slate. And what's even cooler is that the look of astonishment seemingly now on Luke's face is just because she had his lightsaber.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with her.
Yeah.
It's more of, oh shit, they need me. Not Yeah.
Like, here's this person that completely organically not only found my lightsaber, but was able to get the other part of the map to correlate and correspond to the part of the map that R2 had to track me here. So not only has she found me, but she also has my lightsaber. Like,
I'm getting so excited right now. Oh, but the thing that's worrying is how dark the next episode is supposed to be.
I'm excited about that. I think
I am too, but I'm still a little apprehensive about it.
I think that's what that needs. I mean, I don't know. I think it's warranted for sure. I'm excited about it. I'm excited about Rogue One, man.
I am too, and I haven't watched anything other than the initial trailer that you and I were forced to watch.
Exactly.
Where were we forced to watch that? Ant-Man?
Yeah, I think so.
So speaking of Marvel, so I was talking to Danny the other night, my brother, who I reference a good bit on this show, who lives down in Australia at the moment. He was asking me if I had seen Doctor Strange yet. I was like, no, it doesn't come out till Friday. So I guess it had already opened last Friday worldwide. And I'm guessing strictly or kind of limited release to bigger cities, but it's already made $87 million foreign.
Yeah.
Which is kind of crazy. And I don't know if you're planning on seeing it soon.
Yeah, I want to go see it in IMAX first, I think. Just because watching the previews, I'm like, holy shit, this is going to be crazy in IMAX.
Yeah, I think we need to do a Home Before Dark goes to IMAX, because that would be incredible. I think that everything that I've heard, every review that I've seen, every snippet that I've seen about the visuals make it sound like it is the most visually stunning Marvel movie to date.
Awesome.
Which is awesome. Yeah, I there's no other word for that. I mean, it looked like Inception meets Marvel.
Yeah,
which
exactly.
I think is so cool. So cool. I think that is the best. That's when Marvel Studios are at their best, is whenever they're deviating from the norm. Ant-Man, Guardians, the second Captain America movie, whatever. But anyway, I think that looks absolutely fantastic. But whenever I was looking at the box office numbers, huge thing stuck out to me because I go to boxofficemojo.com a good bit to go look at this stuff, and the worldwide 2016 rankings for movies, there are 5 movies that either made $1 billion worldwide or almost $1 billion worldwide, and that just blows my mind, even thinking about inflation.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Captain America 3 as 1.1 billion, Zootopia at 1.0. So actually, of those 5, 4 of those are Disney's movies. Between Captain America 3, Zootopia, Finding Dory, and Jungle Book. The next one on there is Batman vs. Superman. And that's insane to me.
Yeah. Well, Rogue One will do it. And I mean, that's a Disney property. I mean, it's not going to end anytime soon.
Yeah,
I think Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them will probably end up getting a good bit. I don't think they're going to have Harry Potter numbers, but I think it'll get a good bit of money. But
when does that come out? In a couple weeks, right?
The 18th.
18th of
November.
Okay.
Yeah.
That kind of snuck up on us. I remember it seemed like 2 years ago whenever they were talking about that movie, and then all of a sudden.
Yeah, they're making it into a 5-movie thing.
Of course
so I'm really excited about that. I have no complaints about that.
I don't either. The Harry Potter movies are fantastic, and those sort of anthologies are great. I think that they'll be well done.
And they're already talking about making Cursed Child into a movie, so I'm really excited if they do that, or a couple of movies, I guess.
All right. Well. So. Yeah, the box office numbers or the best movies at the box office right now are kind of sad. So Dan Brown's Inferno with Tom Hanks and Sweet Hair, and then Medea Halloween, and then Jack Reacher too.
Good God.
Yep, Jack Reacher. It's like the best worst movie I've ever seen in my life. Like a movie that I don't remember anything of, but I didn't hate it. Like I watched it on the plane, I think, and I was like, all right, this is a movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. So. Anything else coming out that?
Rogue One, Fantastic Beasts, Doctor Strange. That's all I've got. And that new Amy Adams movie. I kind of want to check out.
Oh yeah, that's supposed to be like one of the best movies of the year.
Yeah. So those are the ones I've got on the rest of my year, I think.
Arrival. Yeah, that's what that's called. Yeah. There's Arrival. Bleed for This doesn't look too bad. The Miles Teller movie about the boxer who gets paralyzed and then comes back and. No, I don't know.
Yeah.
No, not for you, huh?
Yeah.
One of the other things I had on my list, and I don't know if it's something that we've really discussed at length, but seeing in the news about, or at least on IGN, I think it might have been in Google News too, but just the overwhelming popularity right now of the PlayStation VR. I don't know how much we've talked about just how intrigued. For me, I'm not necessarily a big fan of VR, and I don't know if I don't know that I know your thoughts on whether or not you'd be interested to start going down that path of virtual reality.
I am, but it's going to take the right titles to come out. I mean, I think Google Cardboard is awesome, and the Star Wars app with the Star Wars videos that came out with it were really, really cool. And I think the PlayStation Vita, or is it Vita? No, that was their handheld. What's their VR?
It's just called PlayStation VR, I think.
Oh, okay. I think it's the first step in making a widely consumer-based product that is at a price point that people can get behind. So from that perspective, I'm definitely for it. But again, I'm not going to jump on board until there are until developers are consistently releasing titles in that format. Until that happens, I'm not on board with it. It's the same thing with the new Nintendo console. Until they can stifle my doubts about what they've produced outside of regular Pokemon games on the 3DS, I'm not going to buy a new console for a Zelda game every 6 years. I love the concept. I want it to work. I feel the exact same way about VR. What I've messed around with VR is really cool. But for my money, I'm not going to get on board with it until there's a proven track record of products. So I will not be an early adopter in that sense.
Yeah. Just from a physical standpoint, call me weird, but I almost feel like I could see myself getting claustrophobic playing VR. And again, maybe I'm just weird, but sometimes I get that feeling. Let's say I'm stressed out at work and I'm like, okay, I just need to put my headphones on and listen to music. Sometimes that does the opposite. It makes me feel kind of claustrophobic and closed in and like completely blocking out everything around you. Sometimes isn't a great thing. And I'm wondering, I don't know. And also I feel like I'm more intrigued by AR than VR. I think the HoloLens stuff definitely intrigues me a lot more than. But again, it's a gimmick until proven
exactly
until proven otherwise. So we didn't talk about Nintendo Switch on the last episode, did we?
No.
I don't know if you want to dedicate more time to that at some point, but we're coming up on about 10. I think we got about 10 minutes left on the show.
So yeah, I mean, Nintendo Switch came out. It's their new console that they're putting out, their next gen console, as it were, and it looks great, looks promising. I have a lot of doubts. The format is really cool. What I think they were trying to do with the Wii U, going from a handheld environment to a platformer environment, but all these things said, it's like they're showing a tablet being carried around and played on. Every tablet I've ever messed with, including the iPad at times, especially whenever you have to be connected to something, the battery life is complete shit. Like, I'm very skeptical from that standpoint, especially when you consider that they're showing Skyrim Remastered, which, whatever, I think that's shitty in and of itself. Like, okay, let's show a game that's being remastered, sure, but is a game that came out 8 years ago on last gen consoles rather than something new and exciting, a new IP or a new title that I can get behind. Like, Nintendo's never been able to satiate my need for really big games like that I want to play outside of Zelda and a couple of Mario games. And Pokemon, which is a handheld game, like I just cannot get behind it. So concept looked cool. I really want it to work, but I also really need them to show me something to get me on board with it more than just hopes and dreams that maybe they'll surprise me, because I was one of the people that had a Wii and regretted it. I mean,
Agreed. Yeah, I'm the same.
I did not get a Wii U for that purpose. I mean, I love my 3DS, but I also have 6 or 7 games for it that I've really enjoyed playing. And maybe the Switch will be that way, but I won't rush out to buy it the day it launches for that reason. So
no, and I think a lot of people probably have that same sentiment. One of the things that is promising, though, is that developers immediately came out and were talking about how, I guess, easy it looks like it is, like it's going to be to develop for it and that sort of stuff. And they're excited about it. And I don't know if that's just lip service at this point, but they do have a list of quote unquote announced games that are going to come out for it. I don't know if you looked at that at all.
I haven't.
So Dragon Quest X and Dragon Quest XI are coming out next year. There are only 2 things so far that are exclusive to it. So just going down the list, I don't know, some game called Dungeon of Czar that don't even know the developer or the publisher for. Just Dance 2017 again. It's on other systems. Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, again, first Zelda game in how long? I don't know. Monster Boy and the Cursed Kingdom, which is a platformer. It is not exclusive. Then again, I don't know how many of these are. Only one of these is exclusive to just Nintendo, and that's the Zelda game. Project Sonic 2017, again, a Sonic game. Might intrigue some people. Untitled Pokemon game, a game called Rise Race for the Future. It's a racing game. Riverside. It's an open world game.
All of these things. I like it. Again, it's a fucking Zelda game, and the last one was Skyward Sword, which came out, I want to say, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, maybe. I'll have to check that up. Check that out. But again, it's I can't get behind that. When did that come out? I'm looking it up now here. 2011, so 5 years ago. So yeah, cool, a new Zelda game, but when's the next one going to be out? You know, and I'm okay waiting 5 years in between titles, but you got to have something in between those 5 years because, you know, the Wii U came out 4 years ago, and now you're upgrading to a new console, so it's like I'm going to have to hope for this one Zelda game to hold me over for the life of the console, maybe two tops. So I don't know, man. Also, I don't know, and it's partly on me. I haven't gone to look to see if they posted it. I know nothing about the specs on this thing, like what it's capable of doing from a processing standpoint. It being in a tablet form makes me really skeptical from that perspective. However, I've seen things like the Surface Pro and stuff like that have a lot of processing capabilities, but at the same time, it had to sacrifice battery life in its first installment. I mean, there's just a lot of skepticism from just a hardware perspective, not to mention a lot of skepticism from a game lineup perspective. So skepticism all around for my part. Excited, really, really, really want it to work. I don't want to say that it's doomed to fail or anything like that. I more than anything want to see Nintendo succeed, and I think they have a place in the gaming 3, as it were. They certainly have something to offer, otherwise they wouldn't still be around. But I don't think that they are producing that for me right now, and they haven't in some time. So probably since the Nintendo 64 outside of their handhelds. So,
well, honestly, I'm starting to think back to what maybe caused Nintendo, at least on my part, to lose some of its luster. And I wonder, their IPs have always been there, right? They've always been huge sellers. They're always going to draw people to the consoles, whether that's the Mario universe, whether that's the Zelda universe. But
I mean, they have some of the best. I mean, they have some of the most memorable IPs of any gaming company at all. I mean, they've got what? Let's see. They've got was Donkey Kong Nintendo. Yes, so they've got Donkey Kong. They've got Mario. They've got Zelda. They've got Metroid. They've got Star Fox. They've got. I mean, fuck, man. They've got they've got all their party games. They've got Mario Kart, Smash Brothers, all the different, like all the Mario spin-off games were a fucking blast. Like Super Mario Strikers, Mario Tennis, all that stuff was a ton of fun. Pokemon, I mean, God knows, dude. They have a ton of IPs, but the distance and the development is so few and far between, and they're not making any new ones. Like you see PlayStation and Xbox bringing new IPs, even though it's not necessarily like exclusive. I think Destiny's a good example of that. Like that's the first real next gen title that's not an IP for either console, and players can choose which one they want to play on, but you couldn't play that on a Wii U. You know, it would make a hell of a lot of difference if I could play that on a portable tablet while I was at work or something. Hell yeah, I'd be on board with that.
Yeah, I'd be fired from my job in a heartbeat.
So that's what I'm saying. Like it's going to depend on if the hardware can match what AAA titles are producing for Xbox One or Scorpio or the next PlayStation or whatever, as well as Nintendo producing their own IP titles at a more regular interval than they have over the past 8 to 10 years. So
yeah, no, I agree with you. And I wonder if there's really room for there to be 3 at this point.
I think there is, man. I think there's a lot of fun to be said about the non-seriousness of Nintendo titles. I mean, Nintendo IPs are indie games at their best, in my opinion. I mean, everything that I love about all the indie games that I've played over the years are consistently what come up in Nintendo's IPs. I mean, think about like the platformers on SNES and Nintendo 64, like all the Donkey Kong games, all the Zelda games, all the Mario games, all the party games, like all of these really fun, enjoyable experiences without them having to be so emotionally demanding or what have you, you know? So
yeah, that's true. A lot of these games gain realism, they do gain a exhaustion factor to them.
Right. So I think, like I said, I think there's a place for that, but they're not capitalizing on that, in my opinion. And I think that's why the Wii was so successful. And also such a letdown for me is like it scratched that itch, certainly, but there wasn't enough for me to keep going back to it when there were so many other titles on the other consoles that I was playing at the time. So
yeah, for sure. And the other thing that I just can't get on board with their newer systems is the controller. The nunchuck having two independent sticks from each other. My brain doesn't work like that. And
that's the other thing about the Switch, man. You saw it. Like they popped up the tablet, they had the sticks attached, and you could play it like the Wii U, or you could take them off and play like their nunchucks, like with the Wii. Like there's a lot of adaptability in that console, and I think it has a lot of promise, but I just do not know yet.
Yeah, I don't know either. So, do you have anything else on your list?
That's it, man. I got a big stomach that's ready to eat and to get on some challenge mode. So.
I think I had one more thing, and you probably can't tell because I grow a very pathetic mustache, but I'm going to participate in Movember this year. I think I'm going to create a little page to help promote men's health, prostate cancer, testicular cancer, mental health awareness, that kind of thing. You want to join me in growing a really disgusting mustache? No? Okay.
I'll donate. I'll donate to your page. How about that?
All right.
I'll let you do it. I have to have facial hair over my entire face. There is no in between.
All right. Well, that's
how about this? How about this? I won't grow just a mustache, but at the end of the month, I'll shave everything but my mustache. How about that?
Wait.
So I'll grow the full beard, and then I'll shave it all down to the mustache for a couple of days.
Okay. All right. Sounds good.
Okay. All right, guys. Thanks for checking us out. It's been a fun episode. Glad to be back as always. You can find us both on Twitter. Tim, where can they find you?
You can find me at my name, Tim Herb.
You can find me as well at The Architect. That's at _ARC, number 1 TECT, and collectively at Home Before Dark. That's before spelled B and the number 4. Thanks again, guys. We always appreciate it. As always, be home before dark.